along here. So this is the actual event is selected. That's important because I want to make a sub event. So with this, see how you see that blue line with things set up like that. Now I can go to this add sub event button, left click. Now here's a sub event. Sub event, you can tell what a sub event is because of this indentation here. And a sub event is dependent on the event. What we have set up is we set up when the N key is pressed, we want something to happen. And now what we want to happen is we want for the bolt to be set up to come out of our player. So what we need to do is we need to create the bolt at the point that we set up. That's why we set up that point. Remember the point we named FP? So what we're going to do is we're going to select add action. And we're going to go to common action for all objects. A lot of times if you're not sure what you're going for in Gdevelop, it'll be, as far as selecting an event, it'll be common action. I should say selecting a condition or that, and be common action for all objects. We're going to left click here. And then we're going to select objects because we want to create an object. So now we look here, create an object. We're going to left click on create an object. So then this says create an object at a specified position. So the object that we want to sit, and then it says object to create. It's just very easy to understand. I'm commenting on it because it's just nice. It deserves to be commented on in a positive way for just being simple. Anyway, object to create. We're going to left click on bolt. And then here we have this position here. So one of the things that you'll hear a lot of different programs, particularly for gaming, talking about is how you don't have to put any code in. In my experience, you always have, let me define what I mean by code. When I mean code, I mean you having to type something. In my experience with whatever gaming thing I've used, you have to put in a some amount of code. There's always, and again, I'm defining code as you having to type something in. All right. So Gdevelop does that. You do have to type things in. However, it does it like the rest of Gdevelop in just a very nice, easy way to figure out. So we need this exposition here. So what you can do to get this exposition is you're going to left click on this blue button to the right. You're going to scroll up. You're going to select common expressions for all. You're going to go down to position. You're going to left click on position. You're going to scroll down. And then you see here's this exposition. So we're going to left click there. And then we're going to left click here. Now this is basically what's going on is this is first we selected in here, and you can see like outside in the gray, outside of the white, see where it says object create is the bolt, right? That's what we want. The object to be created is the bolt. We already selected the bolt, right? Now we want the bolt to be selected at a particular point of something, which in that object that we want to select this bolt at is our player, all right? So we're going to left click our player, and I'm just going to the side here to click outside to get that menu to pop away. Now I'm going to select done. So basically what's going on, we want to create an object, which is the bolt, at the position of the player's exposition. This right here is pretty much a repeat. We're going to click here, scroll up to the top, common expression for all objects. We're going to go to position, scroll down, select Y position, and then again, we're creating the object bolt that's already set up. This is setting up for the point of what the projectile is coming from, which is the player. So we're going to left click on the player, and I'm just going to the right to click out to get the menu to go away. That's selectable. Now I'm going to select done. Okay, so now we have this basic setup right here, right? To have this come out at that new point that we made, this is important. You're going to go to the right of this period here. You're going to put in Shift, capital P, O-I-N-T, all right? And then after that, what you're going to do is inside of these parentheses, you're going to put in the name of the point, which is FP. You're going to do the same thing here. So you're going to go to the right of the period there, capital P, okay, capital P, not lowercase p, point, you're going to go inside here, and then you're going to type in FP. And then with that done, now you can click OK. And now you see this code here. Okay, so now we have things set up for the object to be made. So in key is pressed. When that happens, we have this sub event connected to the press. The action says what's going to happen, create an object at position. What we need to do now is we need to add a force to have this projectile actually move, this bolt actually move. So what we're going to do is click add action. We're going to go to common action for all objects. We're going to go to movement, and we have all these different options. Now be aware, we have add a force angle and add a force. We want add a force angle, okay? Just to be clear, you do not want right now add a force. You want add a force angle. So hovering over add a force angle, knowing that we need add a force angle, you're going to left click on add a force angle. Okay. So with this, we see add a force to an object. This object will move. According to all of the forces it has, this action creates the force using the specified angle and length. So we're putting this force to an object. That object is bolt. So we're going to left click there. Okay, so this right here in Gdevelop, think of the default position of pointing in Gdevelop as being to the right. And what I mean is if you have a circle, okay, to the right of that circle, Gdevelop sees that as 0, and to the left, Gdevelop sees that as 180. So you might say, what is he talking about? Basically, when you make a sprite come into Gdevelop, Gdevelop sees, I'm trying to think of, Gdevelop sees the default setting of that sprite is pointing to the right. So 0 equals point to the right. If you can imagine a circle right here, right? 0 will be point to the right. The opposite direction is 180, which would be point to the left. All right. So our character is pointing to the left, not the right. So if the character is pointing to the right, for the angle, we would put in 0. Since the character is pointing to the left, we're going to left click here and put in 180. Okay, so now this right here is going to determine how fast the projectile is going to go. We're going to left click here. We're going to put in 400 pixels. So this is going to move at 400 pixels per second. And then this damping, we need this to be set to 1 for our projectile to shoot out. So with all of that done, we're going to left click on OK. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to test this out to make sure this works. So we're going to go to our preview button right here, launch a preview of the scene. We're going to click that. And now we're going to press the N key. And you can see there's our projectiles coming out. Too low. So we can adjust that since they're coming out so low. We'll go back to new scene. We'll double click on our player. We're going to go to edit points. Here is our FP point. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise this up higher. Then we're going to select close, then apply. And even though we're on another screen, we still have our preview button here. So we're going to click our preview button. And now our projectile is coming out from the center point of our player, which is what I want. I'm going to close this now. Okay, when we had our projectiles coming out, you see how they were all bunched up, right? We can fix that. The way we can fix that is by adding in something called a timer. And a timer will allow our projectiles to come out in a way where they're not all bunched up. To do that, we want to look back to our main event here. Now we have this sub event, we have this event here. So it's like, well, what is the difference between having the stuff up here and having it down here? This stuff right here is kind of like a help. This allows you to have things that are all dependent on this here. A lot of times the things you put in a sub event, you could make whole new events, but sometimes you might have to make multiple events instead of just having them all connected to one event. So sub events are dependent on events. Okay, so for this, what we want to set up is a timer. We're going to set this up in the event, not the sub event. So how do we do that? We're going to go to add a condition. So this is the event, right? And this is the condition.